The International Space Station has been orbiting Earth for over 25 years. It cost a little bit over $150 billion to build and operate. It's home to astronauts from 15 different countries. And just in a few years, NASA is going to deliberately crash it into the ocean. Why would they do that? And more importantly, what's the next move? My name is Justin Adelmi. This is Orbit Tech Lab. And today we're going to break down everything you need to know about the end of the International Space Station. And of course, the next generation of space stations already being built to replace it. I'm going to give you some quick background information on the International Space Station. The International Space Station launched its first module in 1998. Since then, it's been continuously inhabited since November 2000. Over 2 decades of humans periodically living in space. Its orbit, about 250 miles above Earth, travels at 17,500 miles per hour, circling the planet every 90 seconds. That's ludicrous speed. We've learned so much from this space station, the only space station that's been up there. And the fact that every few years or in the early stages, every time they went up, they would add more to the space station. So, the International Space Station is actually a collaboration between NASA, Russia's Roscosmos, the European Space Agency, JAXA from Japan, and the Canadian Space Agency. Overall, 15 different countries in total. One of the greatest examples of international cooperation in human history. So, why is it ending? Well, there are three major reasons to retire the International Space Station. Age, cost, and strategy. I'm going to touch on age first. The International Space Station was designed with a 15-year lifespan. It's almost been up there for 25. We're well past warranty. NASA engineers have found cracks in the Russian module, air leaks that have been getting worse, and structural failure throughout the station. It's not falling apart tomorrow, but it is aging. Cost. It costs roughly $3 to $4 billion every single year to keep it running. That's money NASA could be spending on the moon, on Mars, on the next generation of rockets. Lastly, strategy. NASA has been shifting towards a model where private companies build and operate space stations, and NASA becomes a customer, not the owner. Same thing they did with cargo and crew transport. SpaceX now flies astronauts to the ISS. The plan is to do the same with space stations. It's a really cool idea, and I know that there are several different companies that are working on their own space stations, notably SpaceX and Blue Origin, probably the biggest names in it right now. Though that's a little bit more far off, I believe, because everyone is more focused on the moon. But hey, we'll get there. So let's focus on the replacements for the ISS. NASA is currently funding 3 commercial space station projects through a program called CLD, Commercial LEO Destinations. That's low Earth orbit, by the way. Okay, so the first of the 3 I'm gonna probably touch on today is going to be Axiom Space. So, Axiom Space is probably the furthest along. Their plan is to attach modules to the ISS while it's still operating, then detach and fly independently when it's decommissioned. They've already sent private astronaut missions up there. Second, Vast Haven. Vast Haven is a newer company. They're partnered with SpaceX. They are launching their space station on a Falcon 9. Single module initially. Plans to expand, compact, and commercially focused. The third option is Blue Origin. Now, this is the company that was started by the billionaire Jeff Bezos. Blue Origin plans on launching their Orbital Reef. This is a joint project between Sierra Space and other partners, bigger and more ambitious, designed for research in manufacturing and tourism. You know how Jeff likes to do his tours. So, you can really think of this environment as a mixed use space facility, which is pretty cool. Hey, if you have enough money, you might be able to take a tour in space. And, it's food for thought. So, NASA's goal is to have at least one of these operational before the ISS retires around 2030. We got a few years. So, what actually happens to the ISS? It has a controlled deorbit plan by NASA. SpaceX is currently building a deorbit vehicle for this exact reason. The station gradually lowers its orbit over several months, then makes a final burn that sends it into the atmosphere. Most of it burns up. The pieces that survive land in a remote area off the South Pacific called Point Nemo, the most remote spot on Earth. Apparently, if the ISS landed here, it'd be further away from people than it is while it's already still in space. It's strange to think about something that costs over $150 billion that has been home to hundreds of astronauts ending up at the bottom of the ocean, but it's the right call. Space exploration doesn't get to be sentimental. The ISS era is ending. The commercial space station era is just beginning. And honestly, I think the next decade is going to be more exciting than the last 25 years. If you want a deeper dive on any of these stations, Axiom, Vast, Orbital, Reef, drop it in the comments. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one.